So it's basically market research is simply knowing as much as possible about your potential customer and your competition. Those are the conditions that make a market. This is going to seem intimidating to people, but don't be intimidated. There's a percentage of us who just anything with numbers, research, data is anti-art. Numbers will do the thing for you that is the hardest for an artist, which is depersonalize the decisions you make about your business. You will start making decisions based on what's going to work. When you're looking at numbers, it's not about you.
I'ma get right in my bag. Why you gonna try to get mad? Everybody wanna keep up. Don't you know I move too fast? I'ma zip right past. Drip all on my swag.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Wedding Film School Show. My name is Jared, and if this is your first time watching or listening to the Wedding Film School Show, you've reached the place where wedding film professionals learn about how to create an awesome wedding film business. As usual, I'm joined by my co-host, Mr. Jason McCutcheon. What's up, Jay?
How was your day, buddy?
My day's going well. My baby, new baby, as of 6 months, keeps me up every single night because every single
You're
night.
in the worst age.
Well, so it's really not that bad. She does like to sleep. It's just she will only sleep in our bed right now. She's in that stage, which I know you hate. So
Yeah, that's your fault.
She kicks me in my back. And
It's your wife's fault. Blame her.
Yep. Well, we put her to sleep in the crib, and somehow, whether it's me sleepwalking or Sammy, going to get her, somehow she ends up between us, and that's the only way she'll sleep. So I'm sore, and so I'm extra slouchy today. I know that you'll enjoy editing this video for
That's
sure.
great. That's great.
We are continuing our conversation about your business plan sucks today.
Yeah, it's all about getting you to be able to write a business plan, and it's like a very protracted. I realize you're like, why do we need 8 episodes about writing a business plan? I think because I think you do, but B, I think this isn't just about writing a business plan in the sense that I think they all stand on their own merit as sort of concepts that are important. Today we're going to be talking about market research and the need for market research in your business plan to be part of how you do it. But of course, even if you're like, screw it, these guys are idiots, I don't need a business plan, you still need to do market research.
Yep.
So
Still got to do market research. You still got to do all the things we're talking about.
yeah, this is a weird topic that I think people don't talk about in the creative space, research.
Well, it's interesting because I think it's one of the easiest things to talk about. And us videographers, maybe we're not known for our business prowess, but it's kind of one of the things that I think I naturally gravitate towards is just basic numbers. Who's the competition? Who do I have to, worry about taking my job? There's a lot of things that go into it, and I think it's just probably not the hardest concept for people to grasp.
I think that's an important thing to really bring up initially is this is going to seem intimidating to people, but don't be intimidated.
You think so?
Oh, yeah. People are intimidated by numbers. Anytime you say numbers, a lot of people are like, check out. I suck at math. I don't like math. I don't want to think about it. Especially creatives who view it's weird. We're like, numbers are the opposite of art. It's like they're not the opposite. But that's how people think, I think, is anything concrete is the opposite of being able to imagine yourself as being anything you want to imagine yourself. I mean, remember how offended people get when they read those wedding reports?
Every year.
From
every
the
year.
Wedding Wire?
When it comes out and someone posts,
Or the
average wedding photographer costs $1,350. People lose their brains.
Every year they say
They lose it.
every year this exact comment comes out when where the Knot releases that report. What are they trying to do to us?
Yep.
It's like they're not trying to do anything. They asked couples how much they paid, and this is how much they told them.
I just feel so lucky that I grew up loving baseball because baseball
Yes.
taught me to love the numbers. And
Me too.
And maybe that's the reason why people hate baseball. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, and which baseball's pretty unpopular.
So here we are. We both are baseball fans and we both love running successful businesses.
I'll say this. Numbers will set you free. Numbers will do the thing for you that is the hardest for an artist, which is depersonalize the decisions you make about your business, because you will start making decisions based on what's going to work, what the market wants, what the market expects, all these things that are hard for us, that when you start like, well, what does that say about me? Well, when you're looking at numbers, it's not about you. It's just about this is the numbers and what. So hopefully this will help you guys a little bit today. But before we get into the podcast, we have a sponsor for today's show, which is Kina Tinick, WFS25. You'll see this nice little promo code WFS25. Go to Kina Tinick's website and just enter it in there. They make really great lights, modifiers, all kinds of cool products. They make the Practilite, but they actually make a lot of other stuff. And you head over there, you get 25% off if you use our promo code off your entire checkout, which is awesome. So go head over there, do that. But let's move on.
Yeah. So when we talk about market research, let's just hop right in. We have an official definition. I think most people can kind of glean what market research is, but why don't you read that off?
I like this because this gets to the heart of it, which is market research is the process of determining the viability of a new service or product through research conducted directly with the potential customers. This is what we are trying to do. A business plan should determine the viability of the new business, the new service, and it's like, will this survive in the market? Is there enough people? It's almost like this is the thing I think most people don't do. When I think about numbers, I always think of how many people can say no to me, not how many people need to say yes to me. So I'm always thinking about building that big number, which is my no's. You need a lot of no's in your business. A business plan that does current or good market research will be able to give you like this idea of like how many potential people do I need to talk to get the amount of yeses I need, which are yes, I will book you, to run the business I want. So if you're charging like $6,000-$7,000, and you want to charge $6,000-$7,000 for your service, you need, say, 20 people a year to agree to that to make the amount of money that you're saying the business plan is going to need to hit. You better have some idea of how many people are willing to pay $7,000 in the market that you're trying to hit, because that should factor into how you do your planning, And I actually think a lot of people should be building their businesses based on what market demand is and not just based on what they want to make. A lot more people should be doing that. That's
a pretty common thread with this series is just talking about, hey, yes, you should be able to make what you want to make. I think it's one of the reasons why everyone gets into this industry, because they're like, I want to do that, and I'm a creative, so I'm going to pursue it. But then also, this part of the series definitely dives into what is the sustainability of that thing that you want to make. And just being honest, the thing with data, right, is it's hard facts. Right?
Yeah, it's just facts.
And that's all we're trying to do is what are the facts in our industry? And there's not a lot of resources. And so I think part of this podcast today is to equip you, the business owner, with resources so that you can go home, you can decide if your business is viable, what you have to do to make your business more viable, use a couple hard facts and do some slicing in your business. This is going to give you the data points to be able to do that. And it's different than, I think, what most people do, which is just glean data, empirical data, right? Like, I've experienced this, and therefore I'm going to make a decision on my business based on what my experience is in my small corner of shooting 10 weddings a year, right? Yes. And that's a challenge for most people.
Most people don't have enough data.
You don't have enough data points to really make an accurate decision. You could start in shooting, all woodsman videos, like you're a wedding videographer and you're shooting in the woods, all elopement videos. That's not a good data point for getting into the luxury market if you're trying to get or whatever it is.
If you're just because you are in the 1% in elopement markets, if my guess is if you're charging $5,000 and shooting 25 to 20 elopements a year, you are in the 1% of people making those films. You are in the top 1% of successful people. You are probably one of the most successful elopement filmmakers, especially if you are only shooting elopements.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what some people will do is they say, I am very anyone could have this. Mm-hmm. But the fact that you have it means that no one else can. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because you're elite, you have a name, you have a brand, you have consistent clients coming to you, There's all these factors that determine. And so a lot of times I hear people giving me advice in an industry, and they're like, oh, you should charge this, or you should go for this market. And I'm like, the fact that you're telling us to do it and you're successful in it means that I can't, unless you get out of the way.
Yep.
If you stop shooting luxury weddings, then I can probably shoot some more. But like that's the thing, is there's not demand at the top of the market for more people shooting weddings at X price.
Yeah.
There probably isn't. That doesn't mean that we can't be a mover and shaker. So what we're not telling you to do today is look at these numbers and just build your whole business around it. Decide, there isn't enough people willing to pay $10,000, so I'm never going to do it. We want to charge $10,000 for our wedding films. Jared and I, we have a business model designed to try to charge $10,000. That's one of our business plans. It's a separate business plan. It's hard to do. It's a very challenging strategy. We're working on it. It's tough. You should try to do things that are hard, that inspire you.
Yeah.
You should. But we also have some business plans based on just what the data tells us. And I'm like, well, there's money here. We should try to make it.
Yeah.
Right? And so anyway, market research.
A lot of people too, I think when they first get into wedding videography, they're like, I want to find my niche client. You want to whittle down what your color specifically is. You want to whittle down what your edit's going to be like, and all these like creative aspects, right? And I would say that probably has less of an effect on who your ideal client is than actually whittling down and trying to figure out where your ideal client is in this space,
financially,
on this number space, right? Like how much can you actually charge to do the very specific thing that you want to do? And so I would say this is a pretty big component. If you want to be doing the kind of work that you want to be doing, market research is a huge component in figuring out, can you actually do it?
If you're like me, you know that music can literally make or break a wedding film. And finding that perfect song can be a frustrating and time-consuming process. You need a song that drives your story forward, leaves space for your audio and images to breathe, builds up over time, and is just plain good. No Fear MusicBed has your back. I've literally been using MusicBed since they started in like 2011 or something, and they have been my go-to music licensing site ever since. I've used the other sites that you see floating around, but time and time again, I find myself coming back to MusicBed for the incredible quality of music across the board, their sheer volume of their library, and their killer customer support. And to make it even better, they offer an incredibly cost-effective monthly membership with unlimited song licenses for your wedding films. If you aren't already using MusicBed, you are seriously doing yourself a disservice, but you don't have to take my word for how awesome this company is. You can grab a free month-long membership by following the link in our description. So head on over, sign up for a free month, explore their library, and use them for your next wedding film. You'll be glad you did.
So let's get into it, because we kind of been talking around it, but we just want to make the case. We want to make the case that you should care about this. And I will say this, I had one person, I remember the comment, most arrogant guys. I'm sorry if we come across arrogant, but we do want to give you guys just facts, telling you, hey, this is what
Our one listener.
Our one listener.
Our one listener.
You shouldn't listen to us because we are on the internet. You should listen to us because we have accomplished some level of success. The same reason you should be listening to anyone. We have a lot of data, 750 weddings. We have 165 weddings this year. So we're in the top 5% of our market from price standpoint. So I think, have we have a lot of data. That's all we're saying. We have a lot of information that we've used to kind of create some of these theories. We're not just coming at you because we read the Wedding Report or the Wedding Wire or the Knot. We're doing it because we're looking at that data and we're like, well, based on our giant sample size of data, this checks out. This information on these things, to me, it checks out. And we have a lot more information than most people, and it's across multiple markets, as opposed to someone who's only serving the luxury market or only serving we have a lot of weird experiences. So that's where we're coming from with all these ideas.
Yeah. I mean, I look at these numbers and just the bigger sample size that you can get. It's the reason why pollsters, they need a very specific target number so that they can get the most accurate data out there. So just having more data points is kind of what we're talking about.
Yep.
And we have a lot.
So it's basically market research is simply knowing as much as possible about your potential customer and your competition, right? You know, those are the conditions that make a market, which is like there's customers and there's competition. That is a market. If there's no competition, and you know, I'm not sure you can even call that a market. It's a monopoly, is what we'd call that.
Well, and the data here will tell you is there competition and what the competition is, and can you annihilate the competition?
Sure. So here are the data points, and I'll kind of rough it through really quick, and then
Yep.
we'll talk a little bit about it. The data points that you should be looking at. Everyone should be trying to understand these data points. There's probably more, but at least these. First of all, what is the total amount of weddings in my area? How many weddings are even happening? Because you're booking those. That's what you're selling. So you need to know how many people want to buy them. How much are they spending total for their weddings? Not how much are they spending on your services, but how much are they spending total? That matters for a lot of reasons. How much are they spending on your services? That also matters. What are the trends in your area in terms of like, and this may be a little empirical. You probably could actually create a hard data point on it, I guess. But in terms of like, you know, are they buying mostly recap films? Are they buying a lot of 25-minute edits? Or is everyone graded sepia tone? Like, you need to understand the products that are being sold.
Well, year to year too. Like
Yes, year to it
how,
changes all
how
the
much is someone spending 1 year to the next year, whatever.
Yep. And then, so the trends, you need to know the trends on how much this is changing over the time in terms of, it's not just how it looks, although that matters, but you can measure like what are the spending trends and evaluating like how is my industry growing? Is it shrinking? All that stuff. Because maybe that could help you with your pricing next year. Who knows? Spend distribution, which is how much of the market is spending X, Y, and Z. So for instance, in our area, because I want to give this example right away so it makes sense to people because it's not a term people use, spend distribution. The spending range of people spending less than $500 for a wedding videographer based on our favorite website, which you should go subscribe to, is the wedding.report. The wedding.report. They said 34% of brides are spending less than $500. This is 6,249 weddings in Massachusetts. This equals 1,562,000 total sales. So that's $500,000 market for wedding filmmakers under $500. You got $500 to $1,000. That's 29% of all films being sold. Number of weddings, 5,463. That is a $4,097,000 market.
Okay, can we stop there and talk about what those weddings are? Like
They're just weddings.
So
Maybe good weddings, bad weddings.
under $500 is 34% of the Massachusetts market. Is this Massachusetts numbers?
Yeah.
And then 500 to 1,000 is another 29, essentially another 30. So 65,
63-ish, 64.
65% roughly is under $1,000. So essentially you're talking about 65% of our industry in Massachusetts are Craigslist videographers.
Yeah. They're
Yeah.
not listening to this podcast.
Okay. Yeah. So
They're not listening to any podcast. They're just like, who knows what, like they could be uncles, cousins. This is data collected by couples, by the way. They're offering it. And maybe they're lying. I don't think they are.
Yeah. So immediately what this told me when I first read this number, is it was a big wake up call. I think for both of us, we were like, what? Like maybe all these other companies who
I
are
definitely think we had
averaging-
bought into the story on
Yeah.
the market. Like, average is $2,500.
all these people that are saying the average is, $1,200 for a wedding videographer, maybe they're not that crazy because here are the numbers and they play it out right here.
Mm-hmm.
Who are those people? So you're automatically thinking about who's my competition in the area. What a big part of the industry is here. Do I even want to service these people? What is that even like? How much work is that? Like, that's a huge part
What do
of the
these
industry.
people want? And you'll see this. You'll bear it out. If you've ever made the jump from $1,500 to $3,000, you're going to see that the requests that the couples have are different.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're going to want different things. We're a little bit experiencing a little of that now.
Yep.
with our new product. But this numbers are what helped us create this product, right? Because you got like 23% is 1,000 to 2,000. And this is where things get crazy. I think this will always blow my mind every time I see it, because this is all we talk about in our industry, but it's such a small amount. $2,000 to $3,000 for a wedding filmmaker in our area is 5.5%. That is only around 1,000 weddings. 3,000 plus, which is interesting to me. That's a little bigger actually. 3,000 plus is 6.9%. That's 1,200 weddings. So in our area, which is the Boston area, based on, of course, this data, this isn't conclusive, but it's pretty good data. In our area, there's something like, maybe if we're being generous, 4,000 weddings in that price range. If you were to take weddings that were missed and all these things, I think a lot of this data is measured based on just public records.
People that go to the courthouse and say, I want to get married.
But I'm sure they don't measure like the dollar amounts at that.
Oh, sure.
So the data is not conclusive.
Yeah.
So let's imagine he double the numbers. I tend to think that the spend numbers, like the average spend numbers, there's enough data there to trust it. So when you're evaluating numbers, you don't need all the numbers to trust averages. If I have 50% of all the people who get married accounted for, I can assume that those averages will bear out. That it's not going to be like, if you took that other 50%, never mind, the average sale is $6,000.
Yeah, no, sure.
So, but that is only 4,000 weddings, being generous, that are over $2,000 for a wedding filmmaker.
In our state.
In our state. That, maybe you're listening to that, and your state might vary a lot on that. This is just Massachusetts. I look at that and I go, that's tiny. That is only 4,000 customers in the entire state. Can you imagine another business that could only have 4,000 potential customers and still exist?
Yeah.
Like, what if you only sold 4,000 sandwiches?
Yeah.
That's crazy. So, like, I bring all this up to say, this is what we call spend distribution. But B, if you're making it, if you're in that $2,500 range, don't let somebody tell you that you're not successful, because you're probably in the top 10% of everyone in your field in the entire state. That doesn't mean you shouldn't be doing more and growing, but it does mean like this is tough to get to the top.
Yeah, the other thing that this tells me is there's a lot of people out there who are just doing this part-time, that are, not even trying to do a lot of weddings. They're just like, hey, my friend asked me to do this, kind of thing. There's a lot of that going on in our industry. And honestly, I think seeing data like this, it makes me go, I want to invest in the wedding film community, because there's a lot more full-time jobs that could be here.
A lot more.
I look at that number and I'm like, all these people should be paying more. Like, I think that is the future.
Yeah, totally. So let's go back. So total amount of weddings. Why don't we look at that number? How do you, let's just kind of go, we're probably going to do it this way if you're listening. We're probably going to be thinking through our process a little bit out loud, and hopefully it's applicable to you. But I think it's important to see how do we do this. So we look at, in our mind, we service Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Vermont, and Maine. We don't really factor New York in, even though New York is technically someplace that we do a couple weddings every year. We wouldn't really consider New York our market. But when we do our data, we're looking at those locations and pretty much nowhere else. And so one of the things we look at on the wedding report, but there's maybe a few other, you can look at public records, all these, is how many total weddings are there? How many weddings were there in Massachusetts last year, Jared?
Total number of weddings in Massachusetts, 2020. You want pandemic year?
Sure, why not? We'll go to 2019, a more normal year.
Yeah, so 2020 was 16,000, 2019 was 38,000. So
30, that's crazy. It was more than I thought, by the way.
16,000 weddings?
Yeah, that's more than I would have thought.
The spending went down significantly. Yeah.
Yeah, so this report, if you go to the wedding.report, you can get this data, and you should support them over there because what they're doing is incredibly challenging work and it's so valuable. Yeah. So why is knowing the total weddings so valuable to you?
So, I mean, if you know the total amount of weddings, then you can know eventually how many weddings you can and should be doing, what the demand is, right? Like what is the actual demand at the end of the day?
Market saturation is the term every other industry uses. We don't. But.
Yep. I'll say this, we are in New England, so there's a lot of neighboring states. And what we did one year was when we were deciding where we wanted to spend our money marketing, we were like, okay, what are the wedding numbers in all of these states? And I would look around and I would be like, well, the numbers up in these states are high, higher than I might be maybe expected. But then when I looked at the not profile of who was in these areas, I was like, there's hardly anyone listed on there. What's going on? So
Vermont specifically. Vermont has a lot of weddings. I think actually in doing research, they are a top 5% destination wedding market in the States.
Yeah.
So they had a lot of weddings.
They probably don't want this to get out.
Yeah. They had a lot of weddings, but the Knot had almost no one advertising.
Yeah.
And so, you hit them where they ain't.
Yep. So
more baseball.
Seeing data like this, we decided, hey, this is where we should be investing. And I mean, now we shoot, I think this year, we have 20-ish weddings up in Vermont. Vermont is at least 2.5 hours away from us, or 2 hours to hit the border, maybe.
Yeah.
But it was an opportunity and we took it. So we used that. This is a perfect example of like, this was a market opportunity and we were like using research data to make more money. So
yeah, and there's an empirical data, which is those wedding filmmakers, no offense if you're up doing that, in the Knot up in Vermont, didn't seem very good. Mm-hmm. And we thought we could...
They had a different style. We'll just say that.
Well, bad is the style, I would say. Well, not all of them, but some of them. There was not enough quality.
Would you say that they didn't listen enough to the wedding film school
show?
Yeah,
they didn't listen to the wedding...
Yeah, we'll just... Yeah.
They didn't listen to the wedding film school show because we didn't make it yet.
Yeah.
So now we're building our own competition. So
yeah, good.
But no, like we looked and we're like, you use that feeler, the art side of you, which is like, hey, that doesn't feel as good. Like I feel like I'm doing something that's better. I feel like I can compete in this market. I feel like my price won't blow people away. And I think we can do this. If we just were in front of these brides, they would buy it. And so we made this, and then so we took the empirical side, which is in your feeler and your experiences, and then you took the data side, you combine them together, and that's how you make choices, and that's how you do the market research. And that's why total amount of weddings is a great data point. Let's look at total spend. The next thing you want to be looking at is what is the total spend per wedding in your area? Why is this so important?
Total spend, so I think total spend probably has a lot to do with how much you're going to charge for your packages, right? I think where's this number? Like we always use this number, but maybe it's just a number that we came up with. But I've seen it used in other ways too.
that would not be the first time.
Yeah, that's true. That typically we found that the average spend of one of our couples is about 5% of a couple's budget, overall budget.
I've seen this data point a bunch of times.
Yeah,
it's
5%
5
there,
to 7%,
and then it's closer to like. What, like 10% for
it's around 10 to 12
for photography? So that's where we are, and so I think that helps us.
We're actually a little higher. So I can give a more sophisticated.
We specifically as a business
yes.
or video? Okay.
So we decided we want to be in the top 5% of our market. So how do you know that? Well, you know what the average couple's spending per wedding, and then if you take the data, you say the average couple spending X, the top 5% of the market is spending X on a videographer. Okay, I can take that number. So I think the top 5% of our market is spending around over $3,000. If that's 5%, you can say that the average wedding in the top 5% is $60,000 to $70,000 minimum.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right. So what would we do? We start targeting planners, venues that cost $60,000 to $70,000 minimum. Then I know those couples are going to have no issue spending what I want. We're targeting our brand at being in the top 5%. So we don't show up places and people go like, oh, the Knot. only gets you budget brides. Bull crap. Like if you can get good, anyone who's a market leader gets good brides. Sorry. If you're not a market leader and you're not getting, like, maybe that's why you're not getting good brides and grooms, of course. But that's what we did. So we took those total spend numbers and we extrapolated out. Like, we didn't say, let's charge 5% of that number. We said, who do we need to talk to charge what we want to charge? And what is can we do it successfully at the volume we want? Can we get in front of enough of these people? How much do we need to spend to get in front of these people? Because if there's only a certain when you look at the total cost of the wedding, and then you see, in our market, I said the actual numbers on the wedding report for people who are close to where we want are maybe 2,200. I think probably you can double that in our area. There's probably 4,000 weddings that are in the $60,000 mark.
Yeah.
I look at that and go, okay, I got 4,000 opportunities in Massachusetts, and then of course in each state, they have their own numbers to get these people. And we're closing, when you think of it that way, we're closing on a very small percentage of them. And then when we look at our numbers where we're closing on, I think 20% of the people who actually do a consult with us book. I haven't done that number.
Or people that just reach out.
Yeah, I haven't actually done that number this year, so I should do that. But regardless, at one point we were closing on 20-25% of our couples. Mm-hmm. You look at that and you're like, the problem is not anything about my website or about my product. I'm not even getting in front of enough couples. You know, that's how we look at it. So not to get too complex, but total spend really matters because it will determine how you set your pricing, and it will help you understand how aggressive do I need to be in my marketing to even get the couples who can afford what I want to charge.
Yeah, and it's one reason why industry leaders, the people that are making the most, that are charging the most for their services, and working the most expensive weddings, it makes sense that they would go to wedding planners because they're essentially just feeding them nonstop.
Good leads.
$500,000 wedding, 5,000. It's just one after the other, because you're not going to get that type of person on the Knot or Wedding Wire or whatever.
No, because they're not going to do their own work.
No. So yeah, I guess total spend, it affects the average spend on videography.
Yes. Which you need to know, but we've talked about that ad nauseum. But the next one is average spend on videography. You need to know that. So you can get that on a lot of places: Wedding Wire, the Knot, the Wedding Report. You can even take your own numbers and average them out. There's a lot of ways to get this number. You got to know it because it helps you set your pricing or evaluate the successfulness of your pricing strategy.
Yeah. Let's talk about trends.
Yeah. Our industry is a little flatlining in a lot of ways in terms of average spend on videography. It hasn't grown a lot, has it?
So I need to pull up the report on it. I think coronavirus obviously threw a wrench at it. But in an ideal world, I think as you got to think about equipment going down, the average cost of equipment going down. So the average barrier to entry has gone down significantly too. And this is the thing. I hate when people complain, these kids don't spend enough money or whatever. So I really don't like that conversation because I think most people breaking into the industry are just doing everything that they can to break into the industry. And honestly, my empirical, feelers feel the opposite of what I think something like the Wedding Report would even project for wedding videography because they don't know what the future of technology is going to be. They're not going to know. They don't know what brides are going to want.
Well, and I'm only looking at the past. The trends of I think there was a big jump a couple of years ago, and it's pretty much been steady.
Yeah.
In terms of.
I would need to pull up the data and
what I'll tell you is this: you need to understand it because if you're looking at the data jumping, say your market is the prices are going up 5% every year, that just means they will be able to afford a 5% price jump by you. Mm-hmm. And so don't if you're wondering Why do I need to know data? Well, data will help you do the thing in your business. The one number we all care about is money. We all care about making money.
And this is, if I can just get on my not my high horse, but on my soapbox.
Get on your soapbox.
Get on my soapbox. This is an area that is totally up to you, listener. You know, like you're the reason why this number can go up, and it's we say it all the time. You know, this is the reason why we do the show, is because we really think the reason the numbers there's a reason why only 50 to 55% of brides get a wedding videographer. And it's not that videos aren't awesome. I think people really love videos. It's a lot of people have a bad experience with wedding videographers, with, you know, a filmmaker, with just, you know, or other vendors have bad experiences, and they have bad things to say about you, wedding videographer. So I think that's
specifically what, like, wedding videographers and DJs fight each other for worst behaved wedding vendors.
Yes. And not to get too off track of the actual topic, but I actually think with a lot of industry changes, and I think it is going a good direction. Just my senses actually tell me that, and maybe that's just me, you know, hoping. But I do think that number is going to go up. Just you look at the way the world interacts with video, it's becoming more and more important, and more important than ever. So there's a need, there's a desire. I feel like people want videography to be awesome, but then they're convinced out of it. And so we, as the wedding videographers, need to fight that, right? Do you have the data pulled up over there?
I'm just looking at how they're projecting a almost double industry growth in 2022, which is something I already said before without looking at the data. So
Yeah.
great minds, I guess. But yeah, I mean, let's all just say this. All this to say, this isn't a thing you do just setting up your business plan, because if people who prepare for a huge boom in the industry next year by getting associates or doing whatever they can to make sure they can secure all the income possible are going to reap the benefits. So you need to constantly be doing market research, just like I'm doing. I'm looking at this number like, geez, dude, we're going to have, if this is true, next year we have twice as many wedding opportunities. We got to get ready now. It's not next year. So let's move into something that I think is maybe a little controversial. And because these other numbers, they're easy to get. We're telling you, based on our experiences, that like they're pretty good. Whether you look at the annual survey by the Knot or the wedding report, they're usually going to have enough cross that you're going to be like, yeah, these are pretty trustworthy, and you can learn a lot. This next thing, there's some data involved, but there's also a lot of just like using your feelers and your empirical data, which is you got to know who the market leaders in your area are that you're competing with for these small pile of couples that are getting married. Why do you think people are so uncomfortable to discuss the idea of like competing on a market for these people? Like when every other industry talks about like Pepsi and Coke doesn't say like, hey, Pepsi, if you win, I win. No, they go like, I want people to drink Pepsi, not Coke.
Yeah.
Like that's just how the world works. And in wedding film industry, we act like there's infinite amounts of weddings, and that they're now given the market will tell you more people could buy this product. But I do think at the end of the day, if your micro market, maybe not more people could buy it.
Yeah, and honestly, at the end of the day, the average individual doesn't have a lot of control about market growth. They just have a control over personal business growth. So, you know, if a bunch of people maybe grew their business, then you would see, you know, overall business
people who
growth.
control it the most are the $500 Craigslist people.
Yeah.
And they're not listening to our show. So
Apparently. Yeah, so the question is, why does competition make people feel uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
And I think it has to do, again, with everyone, you know, wanting to play nice. Although, I will say, out of all the artists I know, the most artistic people are also the most competitive people I've ever known in my life. You can look at it from, like, film directors. You can look at it from, like, actual artists that paint. They're mad competitive, and they don't want other people to succeed. They want themselves to be exalted and,
They would never admit
celebrated.
it, but when push comes to shove, that's what ultimately
When
it
you
ends up
actually,
being.
you get them drunk on a Friday night with some wine and you guys are talking, they'll just brush. They might be the nicest people in the world on stage or whatever, but when you get them down to brass tacks, they want to destroy other people.
They want to win.
They want to win. And if you don't realize that, you're doing yourself a disservice. And if you don't have that competitive edge, maybe you're doing yourself a disservice too. But yeah, it's definitely a truth in our industry, certainly.
Yeah, if people are uncomfortable with it, and we're telling you, like, get comfortable with the idea that the reality is, whether anyone wants to admit it or not, when a couple is choosing between you and someone else, that is, by definition, competition.
Yeah.
And that you are never, ever, ever, if you have that day open and they have that day open, your friend, filmmaker, you are never once going to say, you know what, they're such a great guy, I hope they get the booking. Because, community over competition. No, you're going to say every time, what do I need to do to get booked? And it's not even that you're thinking, I want to take a wedding from another person. It's just like you want to get booked. You want to win every deal. And that's just normal. And it's healthy. It will actually help all of us.
Can I tell you a story, Jay?
Tell
And you've
stories.
probably heard it because we tell stories.
Let me
to
just
each other
imagine
all the
that
time.
I've never heard it.
Okay.
Hey, what is this story you're going to tell me?
Hey, Jason, did you know that I do photography and I do videography?
What?
So one time I was got a video lead from a couple, and they inquired about our video services, and then at the end of their consultation, they were like, "Oh, so you guys also do photo services, right?" And I said, "Yeah, this is what we do." And then as I'm looking through their portfolio that they sent our way, what some of their information is, I was like, this one photographer referred us, and now they're asking me about photography, and I'm like, in my head, like, because I do like to think I'm a good person, and I'm not going to totally, but
Ethics.
But also the reason why I actually turned this couple down. I was like, I can't shoot your photo wedding. Like, this photographer who I love this person, referred me, but I am not going to take this person's work, not solely. I could probably say because I have standards, and I could really rub it in that person's face like, oh, I'd never do this. But the reason is because I want to sell my video service, and my video services are way more important to me than my photo services.
Well,
This is
every time-
a bigger part of my business, and I'm not going to burn a bridge that's worth $30,000 over the lifetime of this friendship just because I want this one photo opportunity.
Anything that's good for business is competition.
Yes.
And that's what people don't realize. Is like being nice to people. You're being nice to people because you want to be a good person, but you wouldn't be doing it exclusively for that reason if it killed your business.
Yes. It's all optics.
It's all optics, and then that's okay. That's okay. Like there have been relationships over the years in our industry that we have purposely decided that the relationship is either toxic or non-beneficial, and we don't care if they ever refer us. But we take that decision very seriously, because what we mostly try to do is actually make everything cool with everyone so that they'll give us money and we'll be cool with each other. We'll have a good time. We're not just doing it just to be buddies with people. And we happen to be buddies with them outside
Yeah.
of the business. But the business side is we're trying to all do things that are mutually same as them. Like if I screw them by doing a bad job, do you think they're going to be like, you're my friend? We've seen this in action a few times. When they feel like we've done them a disservice, the friendship goes out the window.
Yeah.
Because it's all about making money and their clients. So that being said, your competitors, the people you're competing with other couples, who are those people for wedding filmmakers? It's pretty straightforward, but
Who are the actual filmmakers?
yeah, who are these filmmakers that people are competing with?
I think the average person is probably competing with every single person who's listed on the Wedding Wire and the Knot. First and foremost, that's an easy way to find your competition.
Yep.
And what you should be looking at with these people is what are the services they're offering?
Yeah, are they similar?
Are they similar? Is there overlap there? And then also, what are they charging for these services, right? And so it's an immediate way to kind of take inventory of areas that you can sell, because whether you know it or not, most people that you're talking to are shopping you.
No way.
Can you imagine?
They only find you.
Yeah, and they don't want your personal art, if you can believe it.
They don't. They want the best product for the cheapest price.
Yeah, yeah.
They do.
And honestly, I mean, yes, they do. We'll just end there. But for most people, like it always feels great to have somebody be like, I've been following you for 7 years. Like,
Yeah, it's great.
it's great. It feels
Easy sale.
awesome. Easy sale. I can hang up with them after 5 minutes, and it's like, yeah, I'm actually genuinely excited to shoot. But most people are, you're competing against other people. They're shopping you. So if you can automatically use certain aspects of packaging or pricing to your advantage, you should be able to know what the industry in your area is offering, so that you can compete with them.
Well, I asked that question is just to make it very clear to people. Not every filmmaker is your competition, because not every filmmaker is competing for the same market segment.
Sure.
So specifically, whoever is competing or you strive to compete with for the same customer, which is the customer segment, like a person who's spending $500 on a wedding videographer is not your customer. It doesn't matter what they want. It doesn't matter anything about them in terms of your business. So you don't need to consider that. But someone who's charging like your market or the market just below yours is your customer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so people who are servicing that market, they can take people away from you.
Yeah.
And not just that, people will be shopping you and them.
Yep.
Chances are.
So
your website needs to compete with their website. Your pricing package presentation needs to compete with theirs. If you can, like for us, one of our big strategies is to present immediate benefit on first glance versus the other people they might be comparing us to. So we want the person to see our pricing and package presentation this isn't giving much away. Have a good sellable website.
Oh, Jason, we're gonna go broke. If you keep on giving these bangers away, like have a good website.
No, but like when people look, we know that's a competitive advantage, because when we get on the phone with that person, they have a very good idea of exactly what we sell and exactly how much.
Sure.
Versus our competitors, which have to spend half that phone call explaining what they sell and how much. We spend that same amount of time relating with them.
Yes.
And being chill. So it's like, that's based on the market.
I totally agree. And I was going back to you made a good point about who are your competitors that are more expensive than you and less expensive than you, and kind of thinking about ways you can interact with that kind of competition.
Who's chasing you? Who are you chasing?
Yeah, hierarchy. And when you're looking at someone above you, you're looking at, hey, am I a similar quality as them, right? Like, because you can compete with quality. And then you can also compete with, can I offer some things that they are not offering? Can I throw in raw footage? Because that's not extra work, for free. And then they'll want to book me because they're getting extra services. And honestly, guys, I mean, most brides out there can't really tell a difference in quality. Not all. Like, we're not going to paint with that broad of a brush, but like,
it's not something, there's not enough people. If we're talking data,
you won't be able to tell the difference between a $1,000 difference between videographers in most cases.
No, if you're talking data, there isn't enough of them that would make me comfortable to build my business around the couples knowing the difference.
Yeah, yeah. And then also you have to worry about who's, breathing down your neck, who is charging $1,000 less than you that's currently trying to, wipe your knees out.
Yeah. I mean, if you're not paying attention to this stuff, when that new 22-year-old kid who's more on trend than you comes in the market and he doesn't own a house, he has none of the bills you do.
Yep.
He doesn't care, and he's charging $2,200 because he just loves it so much. You could complain about that all you want, but the facts remain that could start harming your business.
Yeah.
And if you're not ready, okay, what do you do to adjust to that?
Can I give a little bit of a rant, Jay? A recent rant?
Go.
Okay. So you see it, right? You see it right now with older wedding videographers, I would say above 40 to 50, who
They're
refuse.
the saltiest of salty.
Yes. So be prepared for a great life ahead of you. If you're a wedding videographer.
They don't know how to use their iPods, so they won't listen to this show anyway.
Yes. Yes. They're still listening on DV tape. They
Yeah.
have to transcribe.
They
it
actually
when
watch all their media on mini DV tapes.
Yeah. Who refuse to give. So it used to be raw footage. They refuse to give out raw footage because who's ever going to want to watch raw footage? Blah 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 blah. I'll tell you what. I've put people out of business because we offer raw footage. I'm sorry. We just have. They have an early retirement plan because we offer raw footage. Sorry, we did that 5 years ago. And then nowadays, I'm finding the thing is non-disclosure agreements. Like, aren't you surprised how many people refuse to offer an NDA to people?
What?
A,
I thought that was just the standard.
so if they're just
People
like,
don't want to do that?
no. They think that you should give that away for free. That you should be able to just give away your promo for free.
They're doing that for free?
Yeah. The people that are like, don't charge people for not, for giving them an NDA, don't charge
But
them.
it costs you something.
Exactly.
Anything, this is business 101. Anything that costs you something should cost the customer something, and they should be willing to pay for it. And if they're not your customer.
And I could
I'm not saying you wouldn't give one away, by the way, if you were like,
yes.
there's always an exception to every rule when it comes to when you're in the heat of battle.
Yeah.
But in general,
And if the industry standard was to give that away for free, and maybe I'm wrong here, but like there are a lot of wedding videographers that maybe could use that against you. They could.
I think anyone who's working with someone who's asking for an NDA has money. So
Yes, I agree. I'm not ready to.
normal
give that
folks
away yet.
aren't asking for NDAs.
Yeah, but it's funny the things that as you come from a different age, and it's something I'm always thinking about because I'm 33, and that's probably old in like wedding videographer world. But like, what are the things that people below me that are charging less than me that 5 years from now, if they're still in the industry,
How are they ahead of the curve?
How are they ahead of the curve?
What are they doing that I'm not doing?
Exactly.
It's important.
So, very important. And this is all, again, this is empirical data. Like you're not going to find a spreadsheet on like wedding videography trends of 2021.
Well, so let's talk
whatever.
about that
But
really quick. How do you research your competitors? Besides, you'd mentioned one, which is, I think, very important. Even if you don't like the knot, still go look at who's advertising on the knot because these are people that are anyone who's willing to put money behind advertising is your competition. They're actively competing, right? A.
Yeah.
B, Instagram, finding people who are local and evaluating the ones that are good. The trifecta, by the way, is if you can find them on Instagram and on paid advertising platforms, then they're really coming for you.
Yep.
Right.
Also, another place is vendor lists at venues. Like if they are in your backyard, actually working the venues that you want to be working or the venues that you used to be working at, that's something to keep an eye on. But I would
look at my planner friends, and if they use any of my planner friends, I love you. But if you use anyone but me, I'm gonna start talking to you. Like I'm gonna try to figure out what went wrong there. Let's make this.
Yes.
Let's make nice. But I would say like looking at that and saying, even if they're not your planner people yet, who are the planners you want to work with? Who are charging what you had already determined the amount of money you need to make what you want to charge? They're working $80,000 plus weddings. Who are they working with now? Yeah. Even if they're way outside your price range or way below your price range, they are your competitors because they're working the weddings that you want to work.
Yep.
So I would say you need to know this stuff. You need to know this stuff.
Yeah, it's important. I think just it's kind of 101. I think when we first started, we were, we actually looked around and we were like, people aren't doing what we want to do. This was back in the day when people were still carrying like DV cams and like that was the industry standard. And the industry standard is always changing. So just keeping your fingers on the pulse, figuring out what's working for certain people,
Yep.
but also where there's holes, right? And all this information is going to help you determine.
Yeah,
those
and
things.
these people can still be your friends in real life, by the way. We're just talking sales.
Sure.
Competing, in the heat of battle, but like
On the field.
yeah, on the field. Leave it on the field. But like ultimately at the end of the day, these are your peers. These are the people like you can also get referrals from these people. So you want to be ethical. You want to be respectful and treat people the right way because you never want to make enemies in an industry as small as the wedding industry.
Yeah. I'll be honest. I mean, I went on Alex's website recently because I was like going to show someone like, oh, look at like your work, is like mini Alex. And I was looking at Alex's work. I was like, Alex was in Boston. I was like, I love Alex Douglas, but I was like, why didn't they hire me? Why did they hire
Always.
Alex Douglas? And I know why they didn't hire me. It's because I'm nowhere near the talent of Alex Douglas.
We don't have the connections. There's a lot of reasons.
Yeah, but that's I think where your heart's got to be, and I think it just when you're thinking about these things, it just makes you self-aware,
Yes.
right? It just makes you aware of like who you are, where your place is, and what the opportunities are.
Well, at the end of the day, what we're talking about is building a business plan, which you should go back and listen to our other episodes. We also have a couple downloadables that will help you. One of them is about crafting your business model. One of them is about assessing your resources. We're going to be doing another one with this about basically a little spreadsheet for you to fill in some of these, basically a market research spreadsheet. And
More homework.
Hopefully this has been
Congratulations.
helpful to you guys, by the way. If you've downloaded this stuff, thank you. Even though it's free and we don't get anything for it. But I am just feel grateful that people are willing to like spend more time with us.
Well,
It's an honor.
The feedback that we've been getting, it seems to be helpful, and that's awesome. Like that's the point. Is like we really want to see wedding filmmakers have strong businesses because if you have a strong business, then our industry is strong, and the stronger our industry is,
The floor has to go up before the ceiling can go up.
Yep.
The ceiling is always going to have its own little weird ecosphere that has nothing to do with you. But most of us are in the middle or top middle.
Yep.
And so in order if there was like almost no filmmakers charging $500 and there were all those people were actually charging $1,500, definitely you could charge more.
yeah. And
So-
it's just a great living. Like it's a great lifestyle. I tell people all the time, we have the best guys. We have the best job in the world. Like
So-
shooting weddings, going
It's a great
hang out
party,
with
man.
new people, and just partying with people, and just going to see beautiful things and beautiful places, and just hanging out with fun, cool people in the wedding industry. It's such a cool industry, and so more
Get
of
to
you should-
shoot video for a living. Like so many people who love making video and shooting photos can barely make a living.
are
And,
working
like,
at a freaking call center.
yeah, and it's like they're good and they're talented, and we get to do this. So like we just want more people to get to do it. So
Yep.
so how do you do market research? Well, we have a couple pointers to end it out that I think really matter. Which is first, I think you want to invest in the data. Which again, we're not getting any referral money or anything. We didn't even tell him we were doing this.
He gets
But-
mad when we use his data.
He might, yeah. But we're trying to sell it. So if he listens, which, he should, he would know that.
Yeah.
So, like, we really believe go give this gentleman his $250 or his team, whoever it is now, and sign up for a wedding report. This should be a cost of doing business for your business, at least. Yeah, I really think it should be. I don't think there's a reason not to do it.
Yeah, it's very specific. It allows you to go essentially do a deep dive in your city, in your metropolitan area, in your state, in your region. I think it's in your region.
You can do,
Region?
it's crazy.
Yeah, and then you can also see how much dressmakers are making, like the average caterer. You can see where the distribution, all the monies are. It's fascinating if you just enjoy numbers a little bit, which I know some of you are out there. You enjoy your numbers.
Some of you too might actually end up looking at something like this and going like, wow, I'm doing a really good job.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's important to know that, like,
I agree.
you are successful and have numbers that back it up.
Yep. So like Jason said, invest in the data. I just re-upped our membership because apparently it expired. Man, he should have just auto-renewed us because
Yeah.
we will pay for this all day long.
Yeah, we love it.
And yeah, it's like I think it was like $217 or something like that. So
Yep.
not even $250.
The next thing I'd say is check out the annual reports from the wedding publications about couples, most notably the knot. Be aware of that. And then also try to be a troll in Facebook groups when people complain about it. It's very funny.
Yeah.
And so like just looking for free resources that give you industry data, I think is what we're saying. Be willing to invest money, but also look for free resources. The other thing you can do to do market research is you collect data from lost leads. You do that all the time.
Yeah, I do. And sometimes I'm scared too, but honestly, just sending an email to people when they say, hey, we decided to go another direction. That's my favorite line. We decided to go another direction, which pretty much means we didn't like you as much as we like someone else. That's hard. That's a hard hit. I see people all the time on Facebook groups being like, what do I say to a person like that? And I'm like, ask them why they went somewhere else. That's not being rude. That's just being inquisitive and being a good business
you could say
owner.
it like this, like, oh, great. So you wasted my time. At least I can get something out of this.
Yeah. Yeah, like what does it matter? And
Who
honestly,
cares?
guys, I've done this a million times. I send it to them. I say, oh yeah, we'd love to. We're always trying to get better here at Stop Go Love. We'd love to know what made you go another direction, to just help us be a better business and better business owners. And those same people that they maybe decided to go another direction or not hire a videographer, go lower, spend less money. They'll refer us sometimes, even after the fact. I ask them like, hey, what actually made you make that decision? So
Price
it's
is not something,
rude.
price is not, despite what people would tell you, when you're asking people something, price is not something that you can usually do much about in the sales process. Like, as you can maybe get a person to spend more money. I've heard these fantasy stories about all these people upselling someone. Oh, they came in and said they want to spend $2,000, but then they ended up spending $12,000. Okay, great. You're one of two people that has been able to do that. The rest of us and normal couples, they have the money they have. So price is a great data point because it means, A, people love our work to the point where like our prices are on their site and they still were willing to try to figure out if they could afford it.
Yeah. Or price specifically, like the bride might be willing to bend, but then when she takes it back to the groom or her bride
Or her mom
or her mom or
whoever's
her
paying
dad,
the bill.
whoever's paying, they'll be like, well, would you rather us give you $5,000 towards that, or would you rather have a new car?
It's just about like
or a $5,000 check or like whatever, and then they're like, oh, the check. Yeah,
they still
definitely.
perceived you to be worth that amount of money on first blush.
Yep.
And that matters in the market. They didn't look at you and go like, this is a waste of money. Like, right. So that matters. You want people to tell you were a little too expensive. If you're booking the amount of weddings that you want and you have people turning you down over price, that means that you have universal appeal.
Yep.
And that's a good data point. So you want to ask people, why did you go a different direction?
Yep.
Collect data from your claimed leads. So what's some information you can get from people who are your customers? Anything that this person does is data. The packages they buy, what their lead source was, where do they come from?
Sure.
Do they come from Facebook? Do they come? You can get this from from the leads who turned you down too, of course. But you can start taking it to another level with claimed leads. Like, could I upsell them? What percentage of my couples were able to be upsold? At the end of it, you could ask. We don't really do this. You could, if you wanted, you could send a survey and say like, I think this data is pretty corrupt, so that's why I don't do it, because it's like everyone is just gonna go 5 stars, 5 stars, and it's just gonna, or 1 star. You're not gonna get very helpful data, but maybe there is some information you can get from someone at the end. Just every single opportunity you are dealing with people, you're collecting information. If anything, we should be learning in the information age with Google and Facebook is like every data point is valuable, and so try to think of the people you're working with as market research for the next person. Whatever they liked, probably the next person is also going to like. We've seen that time and time again.
Yep. So yeah, guys, hopefully, this is a lot, obviously. We're again doing this deep dive on why your business plan sucks. And market research is pretty time consuming, I would say.
I love it.
It is. It's something that's easy to do as you're sitting and watching.
You feel like
favorite
you're making,
Netflix show.
Yeah, like a lot of things you work on that are like this, you don't feel like you're accomplishing anything. But like when you acquire knowledge about yourself and others that will let you make tactical decisions, like very few things are as satisfying to me than this type of market research.
Well, yeah, me too, because it just makes you feel like, okay, and you mentioned it earlier in the show, it makes you feel like your steps are covered, right? Like
I'm on the right track.
You're on the right track.
Or I'm on the. I guess we haven't really been on the wrong track too much. We've been lucky that we've happened to have instincts and fallen into it. But like,
I mean, a lot of this information, probably factored into kind of our decision making with coronavirus. Like this type of data collection, this type of just logging information on our side, and actually collecting
how big
own
our
data.
staff is this year to handle 170 weddings is a direct result of this type of data collection.
Yeah. And so yeah, it's obviously important. Obviously, as you grow, it probably becomes more important. But all of these are just good habits to get into, guys, especially if you are deciding to grow your business and scale and bring on some people to help you out and make more money. These kind of basics are going to help you. At the end of the day, they're going to help you grow your business and be a better business owner.
And the other side of it is if you go, hey, I want to be a luxury wedding filmmaker, you need a business that's designed at claiming that 1%.
Even less.
Yeah, even less. So that means like every one of us, no matter what you're trying to do, you could take the data and say, oh, look at how many weddings there are that are charging $2,000. I'm going to start a giant company. Or you could say, look how small the amount of weddings are that I want to be shooting. I need to do some stuff differently to get that client. Either way, we're all talking about some people get lucky and they just are that good. I believe you can learn how to work numbers if you have the talent, that these numbers will help you get in front of people sooner and supercharge and you can, it's like a cheat code.
Yeah. I agree. And all of these different points, again, we're on part 3 of 8. All of these points the goal of all of them is to get you there faster. If you're able to determine these things, you're able to make better decisions to get yourself in front of the people, like Jay mentioned. So,
yep.
Anyways, guys, thank you for watching this show and just checking in with the Wedding Film School show. As usual, give us a subscribe, give us this video a like while you're here, while you're at it. Really goes a long way in getting this in front of other wedding filmmakers and, again, growing our industry as a whole. Make sure you're checking out our Wedding Film School live show.
Yes.
We're currently making some cool changes to make it a little bit more of a show as opposed to just
film critiques,
film critiques. That's still going to be a big part. So don't be afraid. Don't fear. We're still going to do the film critiques, Craig Adams style. And more just YouTube content coming your way every single week here on Wedding Film School Show. Thank you for watching, guys, and listening for you podcasters. And we'll see you again next week here on the Wedding Film School Show.